Hello YouTube, today we are working on a new program review and the benefactor is going to be Uros Manic. Okay, so his program is actually quite short. It's quite simplistic, but you will see that simplistic doesn't equate ineffective. Minimalism has its place when it's properly put into action. So he does a pull push legs, which is a better version because the normal template of the push pull leg is actually the worst of the three templates. 2 times push and pull, and once a week he does legs. So I'm going to assume by that it's a push-pull leg that is going to be upper body dominant, which, if you do a push-pull leg, is a very good idea. Why? Because if you look at the way a push-pull leg is organized, you're going to work your legs twice. So you're going to get 2 lower body sessions for 1 upper body session. That creates issues. Why? Because your upper body is going to get less stimulus. You already move lots more tonnage with your lower body, so your tonnage accumulation for the lower body is going to completely exceed the upper body, and you might end up with solid imbalances, and you want to avoid that. So doing 2 pushes for 1 pull and 1 leg is actually a good way to balance it out. So it ends up being 4 days a week. 4 days a week is solid. First day he does push. He starts with bench press, a 3x5. 3x5 is one of my favorite static rep range. It can always be made better by an evolving rep range, but for the bench, especially a 3x5 is excellent. And its strength work opens the workout perfect. Then overhead press with the barbell, 3x5 as well. Very good choice. It's another strength work, so it's an additional strength work set. Sometimes I personally like to put these at the end of the workout, especially if you're not going to be hitting the body part that is going to be required for that strength work, because that way it gives you some time from the previous operation of the strength work in the program to rest, and so you're fresh. For example, you can open a training session with a deadlift, okay? And if you do low volume on that, if there are other movements afterwards that are not going to really tax the posterior chain much, or the traps, for example, you can end the session with a rack pull. That way you'll be fresh, but you will still be able to really push the intensity on the rack pull. He chooses not to do that for a very good reason. Why? Because after that, he does 3x5 incline dumbbell press. So he already has an incline movement that is going to be present in the training, and he doesn't want the overhead press to happen after that. That's perfectly fine, and that's actually quite smart. You want a hierarchy in your training sessions. The movement that you want to progress on need to be higher up for multiple reasons. 1, you're the freshest. 2, you are much less likely to skip a set that is prescribed early on in the workout, so you know you're going to do that, which means that you tend to want to put your compound movements at the start of the workout. It's not an absolute rule, as I explained with the rack pull situation, but it's actually quite interesting, and it just makes sense in terms of programming. I don't have anything against the 3x5 for the overhead press barbell either. That's good. Understand that it might represent a middle ground between volume and intensity that can sometimes lead to plateaus, in which case don't hesitate to either up the sets, up the range. And I do think that if you're going to start integrating evolving rep ranges in that training, you should start with the overhead press. Because the bench, since the bench represents the only horizontal press that you do on that day besides the dips that follow afterwards, you do want to have a static accumulation of tonnage, because that way you know that the progression can be steady. And as I explained in the videos, the evolving rep range can be a little bit tricky sometimes because it's tough to manipulate the tonnage variations. And also because, as we will see afterwards, your 3x5 is being completed by the dips, but the overhead press, because it's a 3x5, I do think that the 3 sets of 8 to 12 that you do on the incline dumbbell press after the overhead press, while it is of course much more representative in terms of volume for the vertical press, is still relatively close in terms of intensity and reps from a 3x5. A 3x3 and 3x8 to 12 would be more of a difference in a sense. Doesn't mean that you have to do it. But if you're stuck at some point in your progression, you can try and implement that. So the incline dumbbell press, 8 to 12 reps, I love it. 3 sets, perfect. Then you do dips, and you do 3 sets, and you do arm wraps. I really like that approach too. I do think that bodyweight movements at some point, when you're past a certain level, it becomes unrealistic to do them for reps if you're not loading them. Just because if you can enter a moment in the workout where you're able to, for example, apply a rep range scheme to your push-ups, most likely you're way past baseline already and the training session should have stopped. So that's a good idea, to do them as many reps as possible. That way you get the highest intensity possible and it saves time. And then you do overhead tricep extensions, 3 sets of 8 to 12, and neck curls, 3 sets of 25. Okay, excellent. So you work the long head of the tricep on the push day, very good. As far as supersets goes, you want superset the bench press or the overhead press, that's fine, it's strength work. You can superset the incline dumbbell press with the neck curls, and you can superset the dips with the overhead tricep extension. If you want, that would save you time. I can't really make, or you can just keep the incline dumbbell press as its own thing. Maybe superset it with chin-ups, some extra upper back work, some extra bicep work. It can't hurt. And then you can do a giant set with dips, overhead tricep extension, and neck curls. That's up to you, but that's a good push day. After that, so that's a push day that's repeated twice, if I am not mistaken. You might want to create a variation of that day. Because you might run into overuse injuries. Since you're repeating the same rep ranges all the time, you can plateau eventually. So if you want to, that would be a good thing. You could have a push 1 and push 2. And you would utilize the exact same movements. You would just do them with different rep ranges. You would modify the timing of the operation of the movement within the set and the training session. You can do variation of certain movements, etc. Let's see what you do on your pull. You start with barbell rows. That's not terrible. I advise people to do deadlifts. I always encourage people to do deadlifts. The deadlift is going to fit better on your pull day because I see that you put it on your leg day. I would tell you, put it on your pull day. I'll tell you how I'm going to modify everything. So, for now, we'll talk about what you do. You start with a barbell row 3x5. That's a little bit low for the barbell row. It sort of makes sense in a way because since you don't do a pull from the floor to open your pull day, the barbell row is in reality a pull from the floor. It's an horizontal pull, but it requires an involvement of the posterior chain that strongly resembles a pull from the floor, which is why a lot of people say it's not the best for the upper back, and they're not technically wrong. It's still a great movement, but it's not. It's more of an entire body movement. It's really similar in terms of activation with a deadlift, for example, but that's a topic for a different video. So the barbell rows 3x5, then chin-ups weighted 3x5. See, I have an issue here. You're already doing heavy rows, and then you're doing a movement that is going to recruit the lats that are already pre-recruited. So if you want to push progression on the chin-ups, it's not a good thing. I like the rep range for the chin-ups, 3 sets of 5 to 8. Then you do Kroc rows, again for the lats. But if you do them Kroc row style, you do them like this, so it's going to target more upper back, so that's okay. But then you do cable rows, then shrugs, hammer curls, pump dumbbell curls. Okay, so I'm going to say it right now because I don't want to forget. This day can and should be reorganized. The barbell rows, you're going to take them out. You'll put them on your leg day. You will start your pull day with deadlifts because the synergy of the whole day is immediately made better if you start with deadlift. So you'll start with your deadlifts, then you'll do your chin-ups weighted. That way you're warm, your arms are warm, they're ready to pull, but you're not going to be pre-fatigued because you pre-fatigue the bicep, you pre-fatigue the forearms and the lats with your barbell rows, so you're sort of sandbagging your chin-ups. And I don't think it's a good choice. Start with your deadlifts, fire up that central nervous system, then do your chin-ups. And those two can be in the same standardized version as with your push, both strength work. You don't have to superset them. You could technically do leg raises after your chin-ups if you wanted. It doesn't cost you anything and it's just extra ab work. After that, and same rep ranges, I'm not touching anything. One set of 5 for the deadlift, followed by your 3 sets of 5 to 8 for the weighted pull-ups. That's perfect. Then you do Kroc rows, 3 sets of 10 to 12, that's excellent. And you can superset the Kroc rows with the cable rows, because now the cable rows are going to be an accessory that follows something you did in terms of strength work, that is going to still be for the lats, but this time it's an horizontal pull, because the cable rows is an horizontal pull. You can focus on the stretch and on the technique, and it's not just repeating something you've already done, because the rows are not there anymore. So that's your superset number one, Kroc rows and cable rows. Then you do shrugs in hip hinge position. So that's very happy to see you do that. Most people think that shrugs you have to be upright. You don't. If you want to target more mid and lower traps, you can do them in a hip hinge position. Surprise, surprise, that's why you do rows in a hip hinge position. Rows with a vertical torso are shrugs. You see how things work? Movement patterns work with the way your body angles. So if you angle slightly in a hip hinge, you will find that the mid of the back is being targeted. So that's excellent. You do your shrugs, then you do your hammer curls. Good, your forearms are already pre-fatigued. You get more bicep work in. And you might think, well, you made me do chin-ups on push. I can tell you that the chin-ups you will do on the push day will not damage your ability to do weighted chin-ups and hammer curls. And if they do, you can just do them with a neutral grip on the push day instead. After that, so 3 sets of 8 to 12 for the hammer curl. That's an excellent rep range for that type of movement. And then you do dumbbell curls with lightweight, so for the pump, 3 sets, and then you do neck curls. So what you're gonna do is, I would actually have you either you do your deadlift and your chin-ups weighted, then you do your Kroc rows supersetted with cable rows, and then you do your shrugs supersetted with hammer curls. Those are 2 valid supersets. You should superset those movements. There is no point in resting after your shrugs. Or you go a little bit crazy and you do a giant set of Kroc rows, cable rows, shrugs, and hammer curls. That's up to you. You decide. Try both. They can both work. And then after that, you're going to do your pump dumbbell curls with lightweight until failure and the neck curls. The reason why I keep them on the side like this is because, one, they don't work synergistically in terms of superset with the other movements, because you can't superset hammer curls and pump dumbbell curls. You will be fatigued. And it depends on the feeling you get. Some people don't like to superset neck movements with something like a Kroc row, because they feel like it weakens their neck and the connection with the traps. Some people find it that it makes them feel better. They feel a better connection. So you must try it. Same logic for the shrugs. And also, I want to keep the pump dumbbell curls and the neck curls to the side, because you can really just keep going with the exercises. Those 3 sets will take you 6 or 7 minutes max. And I would advise you, if you can, to do the pump dumbbell curls with a band instead, with an elastic band. It's better for injury prevention. You will find that the stretch on the bicep is actually quite interesting, and the pump is amazing. So give it a try. But that's a good day, and I think the way I reorganized it makes a lot of sense. And then we go, and as for the rep range, I like your rep ranges. Then we go into the leg day. You start your leg day with the squat, 3x5, good rep range. Again, I encourage you to research evolving rep ranges, but good rep range, 3x5. After the squat, you're going to do your barbell row. That way your posterior chain is warmed up, but since you didn't do a hip hinge, it's still fresh enough that you can actually do rows effectively. That being said, I'm going to change your rep range. 3x5 for rows, in my opinion, is not something you should be doing because you're sandbagging in a sense. You're repeating the same reps with the ability of the first set to be 5 and the last to be 5. It's too low, meaning that you're going to have a tendency to pull with your legs, which it's a row, you're going to use your legs, but you want to limit it as much as possible. So I would much rather see you do a three sets of 6 to 10 on something like the rows would be better, in my opinion. Interesting. And after that, you do Romanian deadlifts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. So you get your knee flexion pattern in, you get your horizontal pull in, and you get your hip hinge in. And then you do some ab exercise at the end of the workout. On a workout like this, I would highly recommend hanging leg raises, something that deloads the spine. On that day, you will not superset anything. If you want, you can superset some small movements with the Romanian deadlift or the rows. Anything goes. It's a leg day. I don't like templates that force you to work only lower body. If there are weak parts of your upper body that can go there, train them there. And then the way you're gonna actually handle the frequency on this, I think that's already what you're doing, but the thing that makes the most sense would be push-pull, 1 day of rest, or push-pull-push, 1 day of rest, then legs, etc. That's up to you to organize. It's based on your frequency and ability to recover. Since you tell me that you do it 4 times a week out of 7 days, yeah, that can represent something like a push. Oh no, because it's 5. Sorry about that. No, it's 2 times push, 1 times pull. No, it's 4. Sorry. So yeah, something like push. Yeah, push, pull, maybe a rest day in between, then push again, then legs. Something like that would work. And then in terms of body parts that I don't see worked in there, you could do more ab work if you wanted. There's no calf work. Maybe you don't care about your calves. You could really do more face pulls for the rear delt and the half of the shoulders, even though you don't do many horizontal presses. You do forearm, you get forearm work in here, especially if you don't use straps, but wrist flexions, it doesn't hurt. You work your neck, which is great, you work your neck. In terms of leg movements, you're being minimalist, but I personally preach minimalism for leg movement because it works. As long as you're squatting and deadlifting in intelligent rep ranges and you never get injured, your lower body is just gonna keep growing like weeds. Biceps could get a little bit more work, which is why I told you to do chin-ups on the push day. Maybe more long head of the tricep work. You can do that in nucleus overload principle style with a band, for example. That would be good for injury prevention too. Your traps are going to get work, the upper back gets a lot of work, the lower back gets a lot of work, the glutes as well. So that's a good program. See, I reorganized it, I touched up certain things, but I do think that in terms of minimalism, this is what I like to see. This is what makes sense. This is this is a good type of minimalism. Okay, there are bad types. Okay, so this is pretty decent. So I'm going to leave you with that. Uros, if you have anything to add to that, if you have questions about my review, let me know. I will pin your comment. And that's that. Have a good day.